Evrard, the very inspiring Fred Evrard, who has a fantastic story for everybody to hear. Now, I stumbled across you because I'm a big fan of Dr. Berg, and I did watch his interview with you, and of course it kind of hit close to home for me because I lost my mother about a year ago to breast cancer. Yeah, tell us your story, and I've heard it, and yeah, I'd just like you to share that with the people that are going to be watching this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name is Fred. I'm a professional martial art instructor, and I was originally born and raised in France, but I now live in the US, in South Carolina, and I'm 50 years old, and that's about it. So the story that you were mentioning is quite interesting because I've always had a quite, or what I thought was a healthy lifestyle, doing as well as I could. I never smoked. I never drank alcohol in my life. I never had coffee, never had soda. So I was always active. And I knew there was a cancer history in my family because both my father and my grandfather died of cancer. And but I was sure that my healthy lifestyle would protect me from my genetic. And obviously I was wrong. And like you said before, cancer is multifactorial. The genetic is a part of it. It's a small part, but it is. And my genetic was there. So some kind of a cancer gene, so to speak, was there sleeping. And but obviously they needed to have a trigger. And 2020 comes along, and with the COVID crisis and all that stuff. And being a professional martial art instructor, I own a martial art franchise with dojos all over the world, one in Japan. And during COVID, all our schools closed, of course. And basically my business, everything that I've built for the past 20 years was seriously menacing to crash. And that was very stressful time for everybody. It was very stressful time for me. And I started to have blood in my stool. So I went back to France. I was in South Carolina. I went back to France to do some medical exams. And after they did it, they told me, well, it's a stage 3, borderline stage 4 colon cancer. And of course, with my family history and the size of the tumor, which was 10 centimeters, they told me it was very, very urgent to start a treatment, to start a protocol. My chances were not super high, not only because at the advanced stage of the cancer, but also because of the size of the tumor and my family history. So, I mean, I was not terminal, but I was not in a good shape. And they told me I was still in France. They told me, you got to start chemotherapy and radiation and then eventually surgery as fast as possible. If you don't do that, you're dead, basically. And I crashed for three days. For 3 days, I froze completely. I didn't know what to do. I stayed in bed. I didn't eat. I didn't do anything, thinking that I was going to die. And after 3 days, I basically kicked myself in the butt and told myself, look, you've been practicing martial arts for 45 years. You're ready for that. It's time to apply what you're preaching, what you're teaching, and to be stronger, to be mentally stronger, and to get out of that state of frozen state. So after 3 days, I told to myself 3 things. For one, this cancer is not going to kill me. Number 2, it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. And number 3, may food be your medicine. So I used those 3 things as a line of conduct during the entire time that I was sick. So basically, that's how everything started.
If you don't mind me asking, at what age did your father and your grandfather pass away from cancer?
So it's interesting because we're getting younger and younger to get it, and it's 10 year by 10 year. So my grandfather got it at 70, my father at 60, and me a little bit before 50. So
okay.
For me, the diagnosis was in September 2020, and I was 48 at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, like you said, it's multifactorial. I may have a genetic factor that it was dormant, and for me, the main triggers are multiple. The stress was definitely one of them. The stress of all the COVID situation. I was exhausted, and I didn't realize it because I have schools all around the world. I was traveling the world 6 months, out of 12. And I was always between the US, Europe, Singapore, Japan, and always traveling with a lot of jet lags. And my body was really, really exhausted. So that was really the seat of that cancer. But there's also another thing that is very important, and it goes back to the nutrition aspect. Even though I thought I was very healthy, my knowledge at the time was very different of the knowledge that I have today and the beliefs that I have today. Another problem, I was living in Asia at that time. I was in Singapore, and my other problem was carbs. Too many carbs, too much grains, a lot of rice, and again, crazy mistake: brown rice. Why? Why brown rice?
Yeah.
This is the stupidest thing that I've ever done in my life. And when you look at the history of brown rice, I mean, cultures like China, India, Japan, Indonesia, they've been eating rice for 5,000 to 3,000 years. Always white. Never did they touch brown rice. Never. They always filled it in order to have only the inner grain, the white rice. And suddenly 50 years ago, someone said, no, white rice is terrible for you. You have to eat brown rice. Well, after a little bit of research, now I know that brown rice is terrible for you. This is where all the phytotoxins are. So all the leptins, all the oxalates, all the things that are very aggressive for your intestines are in the brown rice. So if you want to eat rice, do like everybody else did for 5,000 years and eat white rice.
Wow. It's really interesting that you bring that up, because I was suckered into the whole brown rice is bad type thing. And actually I got onto the brown rice for, quite a while, because it is the main carbohydrate here in Japan. But I never enjoyed it. The taste is kind of like it's hard, and
it's not good.
It's
white
just
rice is so much better.
Yeah. And well, my wife's Japanese, of course, and her grandma is still with us, and she's lived through. She was a child at the time, but lived through World War II, and Japan was very impoverished at that time. And actually, she cannot eat brown rice because that's all they could get during World War II, as one of their grains. So so now she's just lived the rest of her life, just refusing to have brown rice. So
and when you look at how people evolved eating it, it never happened before in the history of the world. Even in Africa, where they had some rice, not that far ago in time, but they've been using rice for quite a while. It's always white.
You just fill us in a little bit about your recovery, how you went about that.
Yeah, so I'm in France. They just diagnosed me, and I refused to start the treatment over there because I want to go home. I want to see my wife, and so I tell them, no, I'm not doing it now. I'm going home. And the doctors, the oncologists, went crazy. They told me, you're a dead man if you don't start now. It's an emergency. And I tried to bring all my strength, all my mental strength, all my focus, and I said, no, I'm going to stand my ground, and I'm going to go home, and I'll see. So I went back to the US. By the time I get a plane ticket, it was a week later. And now we are late September. And I go to the oncologist hospital, the cancer hospital here in South Carolina, to redo the exact same tests. And they tell me the exact same thing. And then I told my oncologist, okay, I've been studying nutrition for a little bit. I've been doing intermittent fasting for 25 years. I know about prolonged fasting and its benefits. I'm going to start there. I don't want to do chemo or radiation right away, because if I can do without, I know how toxic it can be. Even though it could save life, it's also extremely toxic. So I want to start something different. And again, the guy went crazy, but nice enough to keep following me. So I told him, basically, I'm not going to do anything that you recommend, but please keep testing me, my blood, MRI on a regular basis. And the guy said yes. So that was very cool. And so I started a 21-day water fast. And after 21 days of not eating, nothing but water, a little bit of wheatgrass juice once a week, but that's it. I did another MRI, and then they told me that the tumor has shrunk 50%. So it went without any medication, nothing, just fasting.
Wow.
It went from 10 centimeters to 5.5 centimeters, so almost 50% smaller. And that's when I knew I was onto something.
That's great.
That's the first part.
How was your mindset during that 21-day fast? I'm just curious.
Um, I'd like to tell you that I was in a warrior mode, but the truth is it was very chaotic. So
Okay.
one day I thought, okay, I'm not gonna do chemo. I'm gonna heal myself. The next day I was crying, no, I have to do chemo. I'm gonna die. And the next day, so it was really what we call in French a emotional. How can I translate that? Emotional elevator. That's how we say it.
Yeah.
It means that your emotions are up and down and up and down every single day. So it was really hard, and I
Yeah.
couldn't hold onto my decision. I mean, one day I was thinking one thing, and the next day I was thinking the next something else. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, I hold on to what I was doing, and after my 21-day fast, I was very encouraged. I thought,
Mm.
well, this is working. Let's keep going that way.
Yeah.
So I went on a very strict, 100% organic ketogenic diet because after all my research and reading all the scientific literature, it
Mm.
seemed that it was the best diet for colon cancer. So
Mm.
that's what I did. And I did that for a total, including the fast, it took me 4 months. Between the day I was diagnosed to the day they told me I was cancer free was
Mm.
4 months. The
Mm.
first month, 3 weeks, but almost a month,
Mm.
that was the fast, the freaking out and the fast.
Yeah.
Then for a month and a half, not because I was convinced that I was the best, but because it was the only thing I could eat without being in pain.
Mm.
I ate nothing but beef.
Right.
That's nothing else. But
Mm.
basically, I had a ribeye, butter, and pink Himalayan salt diet for a
Okay.
month and a half, 2 months,
Mm.
and nothing else because everything else gave me pain. It's not that I was convinced that I want to eat nothing but beef for the rest of my life, but
Mm.
everything else would put me in the floor after 15 minutes of eating it,
Wow.
crying and yelling because I was in such pain. But
Mm.
beef, nothing. So
Wow.
I went for organic, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised beef, the best I could buy. And
Mm.
that's what I ate. Ribeyes because of the perfect ratio between fat and protein.
Mm.
Every single day, one meal a day only. So intermittent fasting, and I had dinner at night.
Mm.
And that's what I ate for 2 months.
Wow.
And then after 2 months, I realized that, hey, if I want some veggies, I can't have them whole because the fibers are hurting me, but I
Mm.
can juice them.
Mm.
So I bought a juicer and I started doing some vegetable juice and sprouts juice
Mm.
along with my ribeyes. And that's where my diet became a tiny bit more open. So now
Mm.
I could eat seasonal veggies in the
Mm.
form of juice and still my beef and butter.
Mm.
And that's what I ate for another month, all
Okay.
the way until they told me you're completely cancer free.
Wow. Okay. And if anyone follows your channel, they will have seen your multivitamin is the beef liver.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Do you still do that today?
yeah. So in addition to my diet and the fasting or intermittent fasting, depending on the time, I also had a lot of supplements, food
Mm.
supplements, all
Mm.
natural. And I was inspired by two main cancer researcher to do that. Was Professor Thomas Siegfried,
Mm.
and here in the US, and Professor Maurice Israel in France, who's
Mm.
also an expert in healing cancer with natural supplements and diet and stuff like that. And Maurice Israel came out with a protocol that he called the metabolic protocol,
Mm.
and it's a combination of vitamin, minerals, some other molecules, all natural, that also help to kill cancer, basically to kill cancer cells. So I
Mm.
did a lot of vitamin D3, K2, C, lots of different minerals. And one of the key points is melatonin. So most people use melatonin as a sleep helper
Mm.
because it's one of the sleep hormones in our brain. But you can also use it at different dosage to cure cancer or to help cancer,
Right.
I should say, because it worked for me, but I don't know if it works for everybody. So I cannot maybe say cure, but
Mm.
it really, really helped. And there's more and more studies that shows that when you have cancer and you take high doses of melatonin, it
Mm.
really, really helps. So that's what I did. And one way for me to get all my vitamins and minerals was raw beef liver.
Mm.
And no, it's not good. No, I didn't eat it like a raw steak or a tartare. I just
Mm.
cut small pieces, put it in my mouth, chew
Mm.
it for 5 seconds, and swallow a big glass of water. and that's how I did it. But
Wow.
raw beef liver, if it's high quality meat, is an amazing stock of vitamins and minerals.
Mm. You hear a lot about the organ meats and how healthy they are, but I guess in the West, well, where I'm from, Australia, it's pretty rare. Not many people are kind of into that kind of thing. But here in Japan, it's quite easy just to go pick up a skewer of liver meat of chicken or beef or something. So yeah, so
Yeah, and
just
I saw that when I was living in Asia, and whether I was in Japan, in China, in Singapore, in Thailand, you can find organ meats everywhere. You have organ meat soup that are very accessible.
yeah.
And yeah, for us in I'm talking about Europe for myself,
Hmm.
it used to be like my grandparents once or twice a week they had like liver or brain or something like that.
Yeah.
Now people are just hooked up on McDonald's and cancer
Yeah.
giving food and processed food. So they
Yeah.
don't do the healthy stuff anymore. And it's even to the point that healthy food is considered bad. Like people will tell you, don't eat red meat,
Mm.
don't cook over the barbecue, even though we've been eating red meat for about 3 million years,
Mm.
cooking it on top of a flame for about two. But
Yeah.
yeah, of course, the barbecue on Sunday is going to kill you. But
Yeah.
nobody talks about sugar, processed food, overeating of carbs, whole wheat, all those things, gluten. No, that's not a problem. You can buy it and nobody will say anything. But if
Yeah.
you eat red meat every day, people are like, "Are you gonna die?"
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I actually cured cancer with red meat. Sorry.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, yeah. And I guess I'm one of those people, even myself, I've kind of been a little bit on the fence and going through, my mum's journey with the trying to beat the cancer. And, she was convinced that meat was bad and especially red meat. So she was only having like chicken
Yeah.
once or twice a week and maybe fish,
And
saying,
unfortunately, so many people died from those poor nutritional advice.
mm,
8.9 million people die every year of cancer, even though they do chemo and radiation. So I wanted to learn everything I could about cancer. And is it a genetic disease? Is it a metabolic disease? Is it an environmental disease?
mm,
It's a little bit of all of those, but you have to make your research and you have to look for answers. I think that's the only message that I want to share with people.
mm,
I will never say you have to do like me.
mm.
That's your best chance because I don't know. Everybody's different. But making your own research and not following blindly a protocol that can kill you is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very important message. So, um, yeah, no, I'd just like to, kind of lean into the diet side of things a little bit. But I guess before doing that, if we could preface it a little bit with your affinity with Japan. So, obviously, you're a lifelong martial artist. And
Yes.
yeah, what's your experience of Japan?
Well, in my practice, I've practiced a lot of Chinese martial arts, Japanese martial arts, and Filipino martial arts in my life. My main activity today is teaching martial arts and writing books. And I teach Filipino martial arts. And I'm also a longtime practitioner of Iaido. And as you can see, and that has been one of my passion for a long, long time. And strangely enough, my wife is Chinese, of Chinese origin. She was born and raised in Tahiti, in French Polynesia, but she's Chinese. But we are both completely in love and hypnotized by the Japanese culture. And we've been traveling to Japan pretty much every year before COVID for the past, I don't know, 10 years. Spend a little bit of time there. I have several of my martial art instructors who are Japanese and live in Japan. But basically, because we go there for training and we don't have as much time as a regular tourist, we didn't go all over Japan and did all the things that we would like to do. But we spent quite a little bit of time in Tokyo, in Kyoto, a few other places. But basically, that's where we go for training, and then we enjoy the culture, we enjoy the food, we enjoy the swords museum and temples, and that's about it. Kyoto in the winter under the snow is just magical. It's one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen.
If we could just kind of link that back into your I guess into your diet.
Mhm.
I did hear through Dr. Berg that you included matcha as part of your routine
Yes.
for curing your cancer. So
Yeah.
why did you do that?
So simply because matcha has been proven the most powerful uh, tea for fighting cancer. The amount of antioxidants and other components in it makes it a very important tool in the cancer fighting war. And it's not all green teas, it's not other teas, it's matcha tea. Very, very, very powerful anti-cancer. So I had it pretty much every day.
And how were you doing it the traditional way with the whisk and the
No,
chawan?
no, no, no. Because doing it every day when I was at my lowest and very tired by the cancer, I didn't have time. But I had some organic matcha powder, and I
Mhm.
just mix it with hot water and just drink it.
Yeah, great, great. And do you still do that today, or
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah?
Maybe not every day, but pretty much.
Okay,
But at
yes.
the time, it was a ritual in my healing, and
Yeah.
there was so many other things because, like we said before, if the cancer is multifactorial,
Mm,
healing has to be multifactorial as well.
yeah.
So fasting was one part of it, the nutrition was another, all the supplements, and I put matcha tea in it,
Mm,
but also cold exposure, mini trampoline and rebounding to boost
mm,
the lymphatic system, going out in the sun to boost
mm,
my melatonin. I
yeah.
mean, there was a lot of things that I did and that are very, very important. And I talk about it in details in my book.
Mm,
Uh, and it's just a way for me to share with the world what I did and why it worked for me, and
mm,
hopefully it can work for a lot of people.
yeah.
That's what the research seems to indicate. But not being a doctor or a biologist, I will not tell people, yeah, it works, that's all you have to do and you'll be safe. But it seems to be working for pretty much almost every cancer, and with different results according to the level of toxicity that you might have. But it seems to be a good tool to help survive cancer.
And obviously the cold exposure and the breathing as well. I take it you were, aware of Wim Hof, and is that where you kind of
Yeah,
got that from?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I went every day. So I was sick mostly during the winter,
Hmm.
and I went outside in the snow, do my meditation in my underwear every day, 3 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week. I went to the mountains waterfall and swim in the frozen waterfall for a few minutes. So
Mm,
yeah, I followed the Im Hof method, and of course deep breathing that I knew from martial arts,
mm.
and everything that I could do. I was doing Tai Chi at the time because that was the only exercise I could do.
Were there, when you were diagnosed with cancer, were there any specific kind of nutrients that you were really kind of looking for, to introduce into your diet, or to, try to maximize in your daily diet?
Yeah, fat,
Fats.
fat, and especially saturated fat.
Okay.
So, like we said before, there was a campaign against meat and saturated fat in the 80s and 90s, and people just bought it. But
Mm,
the truth is, as hunter gatherers, our ancestors always were fat hunters.
mm,
Okay? So, protein, yes, you need protein, but it's not the key element. Um, Carbs, you don't need carbs. There's no such a thing as an essential carbohydrate.
mm,
There is essential protein, which are called essential amino acids. You have essential fats, which are the essential fatty acid, but there is no such a thing as essential sugar or essential glucose or essential carb. So
mm,
basically, we don't need carb. We can use them, especially in its more natural form, like fruits or honey. But complex carbohydrates are completely unnecessary. If you can tolerate them, fine. Uh, White rice and sweet potatoes are probably the least toxic and the best to eat. But if you have cancer, you have to get rid of all sugar,
mm.
including the healthier one. And that's what I did. So it was important for me to go fat hunting because fat is critical for our health, and protein, of course. And a little bit later, like I said, a lot of vitamins and minerals through my vegetable juices. So
Yeah,
that's basically what I ate for 4 months.
yeah.
And in the middle of those 4 months, even though the tumor has shrunk because of the fasting, they discovered that as the tumor shrunk, they could see better where and how it was placed with the MRI, which was a little bit blurry before. And they realized that my tumor was on a nerve, right on a nerve. And that's why I was in such a pain. And I was losing so much weight. So after a little bit, I've decided to go back to see my oncologist and to tell him, look, I can't take the pain anymore. It's too much. Sometimes I'm not kidding. Sometimes I wanted to die. It was so painful. So he told me, look, I know you don't want to do chemo and stuff like that, but if we do just a little bit, instead of 24 sessions of chemo, let's do 6. And I can promise you it's going to have an impact on your pain. So at that point, I was so miserable that I said yes. And they gave me a first session, a second, a third. And after 3 sessions, the symptomatic pain was gone. I was not cured. And the doctor told me, look, if I could cure people with 3 sessions of chemo instead of 2 years, I would do it. It doesn't exist. So don't expect anything more than just treating the pain. And after 3 sessions, I was pretty much pain-free. So I stopped. I told him I'm not going to go all the way to 6. I'm going to stop at 3. And he respected my decision. And then I went back on my natural healing protocol. So I did do 3 sessions of chemotherapy. Because of the power of fasting, I didn't have too many side effects. And then I went back on the same diet. So that's basically what happened until I was cured in January 2021. I'm cancer-free, but I don't consider myself completely healed, in a sense that cancer is a big, big trauma for your body. And it literally eats you from inside. So my large intestine has been not destroyed, but really, really hurt. And my intestinal wall is much thinner than many people. So I have what they call leaky gut. And I have a very, very big inflammation if I step out of the line. The moment I stop eating vegetable juice and beef, there's a price to pay. And the price is more or less acceptable depending on the food. So if I have chicken or pork, I don't feel great, but I'm okay. If I would to have pizza, I would be on the floor for 3 days, not being able to do anything. So there's a scale there. And I have to decide why do I cheat? How do I cheat? And what kind of food can I take? If I have white rice, like my wife is a fantastic cook. She can cook Chinese, but also Japanese, French, Thai, Vietnamese. It's a 3 Michelin star restaurant at home every day if I wanted to. But there's a lot of things that I can't eat anymore. But when she cooks Chinese, for example, and she does white rice, organic, then I can tolerate a little bit. If I have a bowl of rice, I'm good. If I have 2 or 3, it's going to be harder. But nothing compared to gluten, for example. If I have pasta or pizza or bread, it's a little bit a challenge still. But again, it all depends. Organic white wheat will go better than non-organic whole wheat, for example. Bread, if I have bread from the supermarket, which I never do, I would be in such a pain. But if I have traditionally made sourdough French bread, then I can have a little bit. So it's always a matter of, okay, it's Christmas, it's my birthday, it's New Year, whatever. What can I have and what is going to be the price to pay? But I don't consider myself completely healed yet. I still have some challenges, but at least I'm alive.
How important do you think it is for just regular people to be choosing quality food over, cheaper,
it's critical.
nutritious?
It's critical, and people don't realize it. And it's one of our weakness, us humans, is we only react when we are, ready to fall. And people should realize way, way earlier, before they have any problem, any health problem, that the body was not designed to eat processed food. And many people should really be more proactive, and as I should have, and make more research and decide. If you don't have specific health problem and you can eat a little bit of everything, always go for natural 1 ingredient food. That's the best advice. I'm not saying don't eat fruits. I'm not saying don't eat rice. I'm not saying don't eat soba. I'm not saying don't eat, but try to be as natural as possible. I mean, if you look at traditionally made soba, for example, you look at the ingredient list and there's only 3: buckwheat, salt, and water. Done. But if you buy soba from the supermarket, there's 20 ingredients. So, of course, which one is going to be better for your health? It's obvious. Same thing for everything that we eat. Try to always go for the highest quality you can afford, and that's it. But we know today that statistically, most people will die of 1, heart attack, 2, cancer, and 3, some kind of obesity or weight-related problem. And those are so easy not to get.
Yeah.
Type 2 diabetes, if you have type 2 diabetes, I can heal you with no medication in 2 months. In 2 months, you'll be diabetes free. It's very simple. Go on a ketogenic diet, no sugar, no carbs, nothing, and your diabetes will be gone. It's that simple. Cancer is a little bit more complex, but we can do it. Heart attack, super easy, super easy. Eat more fat. So don't be afraid of high quality red meat. Don't be afraid of high quality saturated fat. And if your cholesterol rises a little, don't worry about it. Just focus on lowering inflammation.
And I mean, if there were, let's say, less than a handful of critical supplements that you would kind of think that are really vital for people to take, if they were interested in taking supplements, what would those supplements be for just a daily, someone that hasn't had cancer, but just to keep healthy?
If someone is not sick and reasonably healthy and active, if you have a very well-balanced diet, you don't need supplements. Especially if you add organ meat into your diet, then you're covered. Now, if you're sick and you need a lot of vitamins and minerals, I would go with the 3 basics, which are D3 and K2 together. Those two, they have to go together. If you separate them, they won't be as active. So vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 together, that's number 1. Number 2 would be zinc. And number 3 would be vitamin C. And number 4 would be the sun. You have to get sun. I know in Asia, there's a little bit of a panic the past 20 years when it comes to sun. If the sun doesn't touch your body, you're gonna have some minerals and vitamin deficiency. Vitamin D3, when you get it in a form of food of supplement, only 10 or 15% is absorbed. When you get your vitamin D3 through the sun, you absorb 100%. So, I mean, the sun has always been here. Humans have always been under the sun. We never had skin cancer. And even though the ozone layer is a little thinner, but the danger is not the sun. The danger is the crappy food that you put inside your body, so your skin doesn't develop enough protection, and then you get eventually skin cancer. But it's not the sun's fault. It's the building blocks with which you build your body and your skin. That's where the real problem is.
I guess, a day in the life of Fred Evrard. How do you give us a little breakdown?
So,
how do you spend your day?
Yeah. So today that I'm much better and I don't have cancer anymore. Well, I wake up quite early. I'm an early go to bed and early wake up person. So I wake up between 5:30 and 6. I do my breathing, my meditation, a little bit of exercise. Then I don't eat anything before 2 p.m. In between, I go to the gym around noon. Then by the time I come back, I break my fast, or with some vegetable juice, or with some homemade raw milk kefir, maybe with a little bit of blueberries, a little bit of honey. After that, I have my lunch. If it's a workout day, I have 2 meals a day, and my lunch will be mostly ribeyes or salmon, one or the other.
Okay.
With a lot of fat, some butter, some olive oil, garlic. And then I have another meal pretty much exactly the same at night. And then I go to bed around 9:30. If it's not a workout day, like if it's a Sunday, for example, and I don't do much, then I only have 1 meal a day. I only have early dinner.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. In addition to that, I practice boxing, martial arts, parkour, CrossFit. I'm very active. I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And maybe, I mean, I'm aware of it, but close quarter combat instructor, martial arts lifelong, and I believe your wife is also a lifelong martial artist as well.
Yes. Yes.
Something that you share together. So, and you've done a lot of kind of advising to, the French. Was it the military?
Yeah. I train the French Special Forces. Used to train the French Ministry of Defense, different units of VIP protections around the world, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in France. So yeah, I'm active. I'm very active, and I try to share everything that I know, whether it's martial arts, whether it's some kind of Asian philosophy, because I'm also very much into Buddhism, or whether it's about health and cancer and nutrition. So that's what I do. I test on myself. I learn, and then if it works, I share.
Yeah, great. And something I didn't mention during your intro, and I'm very sorry, is you're the author of 21 books, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, and your most notable, best-selling, shall we call it? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. It's well, let me go get it. So yeah, I wrote many books, both in French and in English, and the two that eventually could concern us and our audience today is first this one. So that's my full cancer journey and all my protocol and all my recipes and everything that I did. It's called How My Immune System Beat Cancer, and really I put everything, heart and soul, in it. And this one that can also be interested as far as talking about nutrition, it's called Eat Fat to Lose Fat, and it's a book on the ketogenic diet that I wrote a few years ago.
Great, fantastic. And where can people find more about you? I guess at your website.
Yeah. Well, they can go on my website, Fred Evrard Academy. My YouTube channel is actually the best way to follow me and to reach me eventually. Same thing, Fred Evrard Academy. And all my books are on Amazon.
Great. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. And I really appreciate your time today, Fred. So,
well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. It's nice talking to you. So,
because of COVID, I haven't been to Japan in a while, so now I feel that I'm a little bit there with you.
Yes, I know. Yeah, different continents, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. The magic of internet.
Yeah, absolutely. So, sounds great. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you very much.